Let me ask you a question, and I want you to be honest with yourself. How many times have you laid your head on the pillow, looked at the clock, and thought, okay, if I fall asleep right now, I'll get my full 8 hours? We've all been taught that 8 is the magic number. It's been drilled into us by doctors, by magazine articles, by our own families. But what if I told you that this relentless pursuit of 8 hours could actually be the very thing making you feel so tired, so foggy, and so frustrated? What if I told you, as a doctor who has spent decades working with folks just like you, that 6 hours of genuinely good, high-quality sleep will do more for your energy, your memory, and your overall health than 8, 9, or even 10 hours of broken, shallow, or fitful sleep? It's one of the biggest secrets that we doctors don't always have the time to explain in a 15-minute appointment. There's a huge difference between time spent in bed and time spent in true restorative sleep. And if you've ever found yourself waking up feeling like you've run a marathon overnight, or if you've ever told yourself, well, this is just part of getting older, I'm here today to respectfully but firmly challenge that idea. In the next few minutes, I'm going to pull back the curtain on why sleep quality trumps sleep quantity every single time. And I promise that by the end of our time together, you'll have a completely new understanding of what your body actually needs at night. And you'll be armed with the practical tools to finally get it. The problem we're tackling today is an epidemic of exhaustion. The National Institute on Aging reports that more than half of all adults over the age of 65 have at least one chronic complaint about their sleep. We go to bed on time, we try to do all the right things, but we still wake up feeling unrested. We feel like our minds are moving through mud in the morning, and we worry about what that means for our long-term cognitive health. And that worry is valid. We now know that the brain performs critical cleanup tasks during deep sleep, washing away toxins that can build up and contribute to cognitive decline. The ambitious goal of this video is to shift your entire focus away from the clock and onto the actual experience of your sleep. We are going to redefine what a good night's sleep really means. To do that, we're going to count down the 7 biggest thieves of high-quality sleep for older adults. These are the subtle, often overlooked habits and conditions that turn 8 hours in bed into the equivalent of 4 hours of real rest. We'll cover everything from common evening rituals that secretly sabotage your sleep cycles to the one decision most of us make first thing in the morning that can throw our entire day off balance. And you'll definitely want to stick around for point number 3, where we'll discuss the unseen medical conditions that masquerade as simple bad sleep, and more importantly, when it's time to talk to your doctor. We'll be drawing on insights from leading institutions like Johns Hopkins Medicine and the American Academy of Sleep Medicine to give you a clear, science-backed roadmap. My goal is to empower you, to replace the anxiety about not getting enough sleep with the confidence that you know how to get the right kind of sleep. All right, let's begin our countdown with the number 7 thief of quality sleep. Let me paint a familiar picture. It's been a long day. You've had your dinner, watched a bit of television, and you think to yourself, a small glass of wine, maybe a little bit of whiskey. It will help me relax. It'll help me drift off. It feels like a sophisticated, adult way to unwind. And it's true. Alcohol is a sedative. It can, and often does, make you feel drowsy and help you fall asleep faster. So many people I've talked to over the years hold on to this belief with the best of intentions. They are trying to overindulge. They are genuinely trying to medicate their own sleep troubles with something that feels harmless. But here's the frank advice you need to hear. That nightcap is a trick. It's a bait and switch for your brain. While it might help you get to sleep, it severely disrupts the quality of your sleep for the rest of the night. Here's the simple science behind it. Your sleep isn't one monolithic state. It's a complex architecture of different stages, including light sleep, deep sleep, and REM, or rapid eye movement sleep. You need to cycle through these stages multiple times for your mind and body to repair themselves. Deep sleep is for physical restoration, and REM sleep is critical for memory consolidation and emotional regulation. Alcohol systematically suppresses REM sleep. As your liver works to metabolize the alcohol in the second half of the night, your body experiences a rebound effect. Your system, which was artificially sedated, suddenly wakes up. This is why people who drink before bed often find themselves wide awake at 2 or 3 in the morning, their heart racing, unable to get back to sleep. You might have spent 4 hours in bed, but you missed out on the most mentally restorative part of sleep. I remember a patient of mine, a wonderful gentleman in his late 70s, who was complaining of terrible fatigue and brain fog. He swore he was getting 8 hours a night. When we dug into his routine, he mentioned his one small brandy before bed every single night for the past 30 years. He saw it as an elegant tradition. It took some convincing, but he agreed to try a 2-week experiment of replacing it with a cup of chamomile tea. 2 weeks later, he came back to my office and told me it was like a light had switched on in his brain, for the first time in a decade. He was still sleeping about the same number of hours, but the quality had transformed his waking life. The action step here is simple, though not always easy. Try to stop consuming alcohol at least 3 to 4 hours before your intended bedtime. This gives your body time to fully metabolize it before you enter your crucial deep sleep and REM cycles. If you enjoy the ritual, replace it. Find a calming, non-alcoholic alternative you love, like a caffeine-free herbal tea. Chamomile, lavender, and valerian root are all excellent choices. Or even a glass of warm milk. And the red flag: if you feel you cannot relax or fall asleep without alcohol, or if you find yourself needing more and more to get the same effect, that is a clear sign to have an open and honest conversation with your doctor. That reliance can signal a deeper issue that deserves compassionate, professional attention. Now that we've addressed a common habit you might have before you go to bed, let's talk about a decision that affects your sleep from the moment you open your eyes in the morning. This brings us to number 6. For this one, let's imagine it's Saturday morning. The alarm isn't set. The sun is filtering through the curtains, and you think, a chance to catch up on the sleep I lost during the week. It feels like the most natural, logical thing in the world to do. You're paying back a sleep debt. It seems responsible, even healthy. We've been told for years to listen to our bodies, and on Saturday morning, our body is often screaming for more time under the covers. The intention is pure gold. You're trying to recharge your batteries. However, the frank truth is that this well-intentioned habit can be one of the biggest disruptors of your natural sleep-wake cycle. The real power behind a good night's sleep lies in consistency. Your body contains a master clock located in a part of your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Think of it as the conductor of a massive orchestra. Every cell in your body has its own little clock, but this master clock ensures they all play in harmony. It controls the release of hormones like cortisol to wake you up and melatonin to make you sleepy. This clock, often called your circadian rhythm, thrives on routine. When you wake up at 7 a.m. Monday through Friday, but then sleep in until 9:30 or 10 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday, you are giving your brain a dose of what sleep scientists call social jet lag. You are essentially putting your body on a flight from New York to California every weekend without ever leaving your house. This inconsistency confuses your master clock. It doesn't know when to release melatonin on Sunday night, which is why so many people have trouble falling asleep before the work week begins. Then you feel groggy on Monday morning, reinforcing the feeling that you're perpetually sleep-deprived. You're not paying back a sleep debt, you're just shifting it around and making it harder to ever feel truly caught up. A few years ago, I was talking to a retired couple, both in their early 70s. They were active, they played golf, they saw their grandkids, but they both complained of being chronically tired. They explained their routine. During the week, they got up around 8 a.m. to let the dog out and have breakfast. But on weekends, with no obligations, they'd linger in bed reading or snoozing until almost 11 a.m. They saw it as one of the great perks of retirement. I explained the concept of social jet lag and suggested they try an experiment. For 1 month, they would get up at the same time every single day, 7 days a week. They could still relax with the newspaper and coffee, but they had to get out of bed within 15 minutes of 8 a.m. It was a tough sell, but after the month, the husband told me something fascinating. He said, "Doc, the first week was brutal, but now I don't even need an alarm clock. I wake up naturally around 7:50, feeling ready to go. And the strangest thing is, I have more energy on Saturday afternoon than I used to." They hadn't added a single minute of sleep to their lives. They had simply made it consistent, and that transformed everything. The action step here is to establish a consistent wake-up time. Aim to wake up within the same 30 to 60-minute window every single day, including weekends and holidays. If you're tired, it's far better to go to bed a little earlier than it is to sleep in later. This anchors your circadian rhythm and programs your body to expect sleep at the right time. The red flag is if you find yourself overwhelmingly sleepy during the day, despite getting a consistent 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night. If you're sticking to a schedule and still need to nap for hours just to function, that isn't normal fatigue. That's a sign that something else might be fragmenting your sleep at night, and it's a very good reason to see a sleep specialist. From the timing of our sleep, we now turn to the environment in which we sleep. This is where we encounter the number 5 thief of quality rest. Think about the last hour of your day. Are you catching up on news on a tablet? Are you scrolling through pictures of your grandchildren on your phone? Perhaps you're watching your favorite late-night host on a bright, modern television. These activities feel relaxing. They're a quiet way to wind down. In today's world, it's almost impossible to imagine an evening without these screens. They are our connection to the world, to our families, to our entertainment, and it's completely understandable to want to use them before bed. The problem, however, is that our ancient brains are being tricked by our modern technology. These devices, our phones, tablets, computers, and TVs, all emit a high concentration of blue wavelength light. Here's why that matters. For thousands of years, the human brain has used light as its primary cue for telling time. Bright, blue-rich light, like that of the midday sun, signals to your master clock, it's daytime. Be alert, suppress melatonin. As the sun sets, the light becomes warmer, redder, and dimmer. This signals to the brain, it's evening, time to start producing melatonin and prepare for sleep. When you stare at a bright screen at 10 o'clock at night, you are essentially shining a miniature, artificial sun directly into your eyeballs. Your brain, getting this powerful signal, gets confused. It slams the brakes on melatonin production. A study from Harvard University found that exposure to blue light at night can suppress melatonin for more than twice as long as other light wavelengths and can shift your circadian rhythms by as much as 3 hours. So even if you turn off the TV and immediately fall asleep, the quality of that sleep is compromised because your body hasn't had the proper hormonal runway to prepare for deep, restorative rest. I had a patient, a lovely woman named Eleanor, who suffered from what she called maintenance insomnia. She could fall asleep just fine, but she'd wake up 3 or 4 times a night. We went through her whole routine, and it was perfect. No caffeine after noon, a cool bedroom, no late meals. Finally, I asked, "What do you do in the last hour before you turn out the light?" She told me she played a word game on her tablet. "It relaxes my mind," she said. I explained the blue light effect and gave her a challenge. For 1 week, she had to stop using her tablet an hour before bed. Instead, she could listen to an audiobook, a podcast, or read a paper book with a dim, warm light lamp. She was skeptical, but she agreed. A week later, she called my office, absolutely ecstatic. She had slept through the night for the first time in over a year. That one small change, eliminating the blue light bandit, allowed her natural sleep drive to finally take over as it was meant to. The action step is to create a digital sunset. Declare the last 60 to 90 minutes before bed a screen-free zone. If you absolutely must use a device, use its night mode or blue light filter setting, which warns the color temperature of the screen. Better yet, switch to analog activities. Read a physical book or magazine. Listen to calming music. Do some gentle stretches. Meditate or practice deep breathing. And the red flag here is simple. If you've made your bedroom a dark, screen-free sanctuary and you're still struggling with falling asleep or staying asleep, it's a sign that the root cause may be something other than your environment, and it's time to consult a professional. This brings us to number 4. Is there anything better than a mid-afternoon nap? That little siesta that helps you get through the post-lunch slump. For many people, especially in retirement, a daily nap is a cherished ritual. It feels restorative. You feel tired, you lie down, you wake up feeling a bit better. It seems like a perfectly logical solution to daytime drowsiness, a way to supplement your nighttime sleep. And it absolutely can be. The intention is to recharge, and in many cases, it works. The danger, however, lies in the timing and the duration of the nap. This is where a helpful tool can easily become a sleep cycle wrecker. Here's the science of it. Your body builds up something called sleep pressure throughout the day. From the moment you wake up, a chemical called adenosine begins to accumulate in your brain. The more adenosine you have, the sleepier you feel. This sleep pressure is what helps you fall asleep and stay asleep at night. A short nap, what we call a power nap, can be beneficial. It can take the edge off your fatigue and improve alertness without significantly reducing your overall sleep pressure. But a long nap, say 90 minutes or more, or a nap taken too late in the afternoon, can release too much of that precious sleep pressure. Think of it like a teapot on a stove. You need the water to get hot enough to boil at dinner time. A long nap in the late afternoon is like taking the pot off the burner for half an hour. When you put it back on, it takes much longer to reach a boil. Similarly, when you go to bed at night after a long nap, your brain simply doesn't have enough accumulated adenosine to fall into a deep, consolidated sleep. You might find yourself tossing and turning for hours, feeling tired but wired. You've sabotaged your night's sleep with your day's nap. I remember my own father, a man who loved his afternoon nap. After he retired, his nap schedule became epic. He'd fall asleep in his armchair around 3 p.m. and sometimes sleep for 2 hours. Then, he'd complain to me that he was up until 1 a.m. every night, frustrated that he couldn't fall asleep. "I'm just not a good sleeper," he'd say. I gently explained the sleep pressure concept to him. We made a deal. He could still have his nap, but it had to be before 2 p.m., and he had to set an alarm for 30 minutes. He grumbled about it for a week, saying it wasn't enough. But after that first week, a change occurred. He started feeling naturally tired around 10:30 p.m. and was falling asleep with ease. He was getting less total sleep per 24 hours, but because his nighttime sleep was now consolidated and deep, he felt more rested than ever before. So the action step is to be strategic with your naps. If you need to nap, try to keep it short. Around 20 to 30 minutes is ideal. This allows you to get some light, restorative sleep without entering the deep sleep stages that cause grogginess, or what we call sleep inertia. And crucially, try to take your nap in the early afternoon, no later than 2 or 3 p.m., to ensure you can build up enough sleep pressure for a good night's rest. A red flag to watch for is a chronic, overwhelming need for long naps every day. If you cannot function without a 2-hour nap, even when you're getting a full night's sleep, it's a major sign that the quality of your nighttime sleep is being severely compromised by an underlying issue. This is not normal tiredness, and it warrants a discussion with your doctor. And that need to look for an underlying issue is the perfect bridge to our next point, which is one of the most important on our list. We are now at number 3. Many people spend years, even decades, believing they are simply bad sleepers, or that their snoring is just a harmless annoyance to their partner. They try everything: new pillows, white noise machines, herbal teas, all with the best of intentions, trying to solve a problem whose true nature is invisible to them. They blame themselves, their stress levels, or just the process of aging. But the frank medical reality is that for millions of older adults, the root cause of their poor sleep quality is not a bad habit, but a legitimate, treatable medical condition. The two most common culprits are obstructive sleep apnea and restless leg syndrome. Sleep apnea is a condition where your airway repeatedly becomes blocked during sleep, causing you to stop breathing for short periods. Your brain, sensing a drop in oxygen, jolts you partially awake to resume breathing. Here's the key. You might not even remember these awakenings. You might have hundreds of them a night, completely fragmenting your sleep architecture and preventing you from ever reaching the deep, restorative stages. You spend 8 hours in bed, but your brain is in a constant state of emergency. This is why the hallmark sign of sleep apnea isn't just snoring. It's severe daytime sleepiness, even after a full night's sleep. Restless leg syndrome, or RLS, is a neurological disorder characterized by an irresistible urge to move your legs, usually accompanied by uncomfortable sensations. It typically happens in the evening or at night when you're sitting or lying down. This constant need to move can make it nearly impossible to fall asleep, or can wake you up repeatedly throughout the night. I can't tell you how many patients' lives have been changed by a proper diagnosis. I think of a man named George, whose wife finally convinced him to see a doctor about his snoring, which she described as loud enough to shake the windows. George was always tired. He was falling asleep watching TV, and his memory was getting worse. He brushed it off as just being 68. We sent him for a sleep study, and the results were severe. He was waking up, on average, 45 times an hour. He was getting virtually zero deep sleep. We started him on a CPAP machine, which uses gentle air pressure to keep the airway open. The first month was an adjustment, but at his 3-month follow-up, he was a different person. His energy was back. His wife was finally sleeping soundly, and he told me, I feel like I'm 20 years younger. I didn't realize how foggy my world had become until the fog lifted. The action step here is awareness. You cannot fix a problem you don't know you have. So listen to your body and your bed partner. The red flags for sleep apnea are loud, chronic snoring, observed pauses in breathing during sleep, waking up gasping or choking, and excessive daytime sleepiness. The red flags for RLS are that crawling, creeping, or pulling sensation in your legs, especially at night, that is relieved by movement. If any of this sounds familiar, please do not just write it off. Talk to your doctor and ask specifically, could I have a sleep disorder like sleep apnea or RLS? The sleep study can provide a definitive answer and open the door to treatments that can profoundly improve not just your sleep, but your entire quality of life. Now, as we move from the physical realm of sleep disorders, we need to address an equally powerful, though less visible, thief of rest. This brings us to number 2 on our list. This is the cruel paradox that so many of us face. We have a bad night's sleep, so we worry about sleeping the next night. That worry, that anxiety, floods our system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, putting our bodies in a state of high alert. This fight-or-flight mode is the exact opposite of the rest and digest mode needed for sleep. So, of course, we have trouble sleeping. This confirms our fear that we are broken sleepers, which creates even more anxiety for the following night. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your bed, which should be a sanctuary of peace, becomes a place of performance anxiety. You lie there thinking, I have to sleep. I need to sleep. Why am I not sleeping? Every minute that ticks by on the clock feels like a failure. It's an incredibly common and understandable cycle, born from the desire to be healthy and functional. What's happening here is that your brain has learned to associate your bedroom with frustration and wakefulness, not with rest. It's a conditioned response, just like Pavlov's dogs salivating at the sound of a bell. For you, the sight of your pillow might trigger a cascade of anxious thoughts instead of a wave of drowsiness. This mental struggle is just as exhausting as any physical ailment. The real power of this cycle lies in its ability to make you focus intensely on the one thing that cannot be forced: sleep. You can't will yourself to sleep any more than you can will yourself to be less hungry. It is a biological process that must be allowed to happen, not wrestled into submission. The first and most powerful action step is to get out of bed. If you have been lying in bed for more than 20 or 30 minutes and you are not sleepy, you are frustrated, anxious, or just wide awake, get up. Go to another room and do something quiet and relaxing under dim light. Read a boring book, listen to soft music, or do some simple knitting. The key is to break the association between your bed and a state of anxious wakefulness. Only return to bed when you feel genuinely sleepy again. Another powerful tool is to establish a worry time earlier in the evening. Set aside 15 minutes to write down everything you're anxious about. Acknowledge it, and then put the list away. This can help prevent those thoughts from ambushing you the moment your head hits the pillow. And the red flag here is when this sleep anxiety becomes pervasive, affecting your daily life, causing significant distress, or leading to a reliance on sleep medication. If that's the case, therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBTI, can be incredibly effective, and it's something to discuss with your doctor or a therapist. This idea of letting go of the struggle leads us directly to our final and most important point. We've counted down the thieves of sleep, from the chemical to the environmental to the psychological. But they all orbit around one central, powerful myth. And that brings us to number 1. For decades, we've been sold this idea that 8 hours is the gold standard. It's become a benchmark for success. If we get it, we've won. If we don't, we've failed. This pressure to achieve a specific number on the clock is, for many people, the single biggest source of their sleep problems. Here is the most liberating piece of frank advice I can give you. Your need for sleep changes throughout your life. Just as a teenager needs more sleep than a 30-year-old, a 70-year-old's sleep architecture is naturally different from a 40-year-old's. As we get older, sleep often becomes lighter and more fragmented. We may spend less time in deep sleep and wake up more often during the night. This is a normal physiological change. It is not necessarily a sign of a disorder. Waking up once or twice during the night to use the restroom, for example, is common and not inherently a problem, as long as you can fall back asleep with relative ease. The problem arises when we judge these normal changes against the impossible standard of the uninterrupted 8-hour slumber of our youth. We pathologize what is often a natural process. The real goal is not to sleep for 8 hours straight. The real goal is to get enough high-quality sleep to feel rested, restored, and functional during the day. For some older adults, that might be 7.5 hours. For others, it might be 6.5. The number is less important than the outcome. A study from the University of California, San Diego, followed adults for 6 years and found that people who slept between 6.5 and 7.5 hours a night actually had a lower mortality risk than those who slept 8 hours or less than 4 hours. The focus on quantity over quality has led us astray. The power lies in recognizing that 6 hours of consolidated, deep, and restorative sleep is infinitely more valuable than 8 hours of tossing, turning, and waking up every hour stressed about not being asleep. So the ultimate action step is to shift your metric of success. Instead of asking, "Did I get 8 hours last night?" ask yourself, "How do I feel today?" Do you have the energy to do the things you enjoy? Is your mind clear? Can you focus on a conversation or a book? Your daytime function is the true measure of your nighttime quality. Release the pressure of the clock. Focus on the 7 principles we've discussed. Avoid sleep saboteurs like alcohol and blue light. Maintain a consistent rhythm. Manage your naps. Address underlying medical issues. And break the cycle of anxiety. And the red flag? The red flag is when your daytime function is consistently poor. If you are perpetually fatigued, moody, and foggy-headed, regardless of how many hours you spend in bed, that is your body telling you that the quality is not there. And that is your cue to take all of this knowledge and have a proactive, informed conversation with your doctor. So let's bring it all together. We've taken a deep dive into the real mechanics of a good night's sleep, and I hope you feel a sense of empowerment. The journey we took was about claiming victory over the things that steal your rest. Your first win is understanding that a nightcap isn't a sleep aid, it's a sleep disruptor. Your second win is realizing that a consistent wake-up time is your most powerful tool for setting your internal clock. You've won by identifying the blue light bandit in your bedroom and knowing how to show it the door. You've gained control by understanding how to use naps strategically, not as a sleep wrecker. And perhaps the biggest victories are knowing the red flags for serious conditions like sleep apnea, having the tools to break the vicious cycle of sleep anxiety, and most importantly, liberating yourself from the tyranny of the 8-hour myth. A core message today is one of autonomy and hope. Poor sleep is not an inevitable sentence of aging. It is a problem with solutions, and those solutions are not about trying harder or stressing more. They are about working smarter, with a deeper understanding of what your body and brain truly need. It's about quality, not quantity. It's about how you feel when you're awake, not just the number on the clock when you're asleep. Now, I would love to hear from you. We've covered a lot of ground. Which of these 7 sleep thieves was the biggest aha moment for you? Was it the science behind the nightcap, the idea of social jet lag, or maybe the freedom that comes from letting go of the 8-hour rule? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Reading through them helps everyone in this community learn from one another. And finally, if you enjoyed this deep dive and found it valuable for your health journey, please be sure to hit subscribe and ring that little notification bell. It's the best way to make sure you don't miss our future videos designed to help you age with vitality and confidence. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Be well, stay empowered, and I'll see you in the next video.